Cops kill black woman's twin. They didn't know she's a ruthless Marine. No one ever forgets the day they lose half of themselves, especially when that half is taken by those sworn to protect and serve. Ebony Baxter, a decorated U.S. Marine, thought her battles ended overseas until a frantic phone call changed her world forever. Her twin sister Jade was gunned down by cops under shadowy circumstances in their hometown of Baltimore. But Ebony isn't just any grieving sibling. She's a ruthless strategist forged by war. She knows how to navigate hostile territory, root out corruption, and if necessary, take justice into her own hands. The question is, how far will she go to avenge Jade's death? Ebony Baxter sat in a cramped seat on a midnight flight from San Diego to Baltimore, replaying the last message she had received from her twin sister Jade. Her phone's battery was almost dead, but she watched the video Jade sent over and over. In it, Jade's voice trembled, whispering about men in uniform, watching her, threatening her. There were no fancy explanations, just an urgent plea for help. Ebony, it's getting scary. Call me back. I love you. As the cabin lights dimmed, Ebony felt her heart pound with a mixture of fear and fury. She had been away from home for years, stationed at Camp Pendleton, building a career in the Marines that had once seemed impossible for a girl from the inner city. But Jade never left Baltimore. She stayed behind, working odd jobs, taking care of their aging mother, trying to keep their small family afloat. Now Jade was gone, shot dead by Baltimore police. Ebony had learned of this tragedy only hours earlier, and the details were murky at best. The news headlines were short. Baltimore woman fatally shot by police in traffic altercation. There were no in-depth explanations, no context. All Ebony knew was the name of the deceased, her sister Jade Baxter, and that the officers' statements alleged Jade had posed a threat. The official story, Jade pulled a gun on them during a routine traffic stop. Ebony doubted that from the bottom of her soul, Jade was gentle and peace-loving. She loathed weapons, especially after seeing her twin sister enlist in the Marines. Jade was the one who always said words could resolve conflicts, not guns. The plane touched down on the tarmac at Tucson to 0. Ebony felt the weight of 1,000 memories crash over her. Baltimore was once her home, but for years she'd avoided it. Too many reminders of a hard childhood. She recalled the nights they went to bed, hungry, the sounds of sirens echoing through their neighborhood, and the bullet holes that pockmarked the sidewalk corners. She'd joined the Marines to escape that life, and to create a future that was bigger than she ever believed possible. Now she was back in the same city, yet it felt strangely foreign. This time her mission wasn't to fight an overseas enemy. It was to uncover the truth behind Jade's death. Ebony stepped off the plane, duffel bag in hand, wearing civvies, but moving with the precision of someone who had been trained to kill when necessary. The stares from the other travelers didn't bother her. She was 6 feet tall, broad-shouldered, her hair cropped short. Marine life had sculpted her body into a lean mass of muscle and taught her to read a room in seconds. And right now, Ebony's entire body language screamed, "Stay out of my way." After a restless night in a cheap motel near the airport, Ebony visited the Baltimore Police Department. The reception area hummed with chaotic energy phones, ringing officers moving in and out, a line of worried citizens waiting for help. Ebony approached the front desk, gave her name, and asked for details about her sister's case. The desk sergeant, an older man with grey stubble and hooded eyes, hardly concealed his irritation. "We can't disclose details of an ongoing investigation," he said curtly. "I'm next of kin." Ebony tried her best to remain calm. "I have a right to know what happened to my sister." He shrugged, clearly, unmoved. Detective Stevenson is handling the matter. You can wait, but he's out right now. An hour passed, then 2, and Ebony still waited. She could sense the tension in the precinct. Uniformed officers eyed her with a mixture of curiosity and apprehension. Ebony's instincts told her something was off. She remembered the cramped war rooms where she'd been briefed on insurgent hideouts and corrupt warlords. The vibe wasn't dissimilar. She kept her posture straight, her eyes scanning corners, exits and body language. After endless delays, a junior detective, a fidgety man who introduced himself as Mark Barlow, invited her into a small interview room. Ebony noticed the interrogation camera blinking in the corner. I'm sorry for your loss, Barlow began, sounding scripted. We're still investigating the circumstances surrounding the incident. Can you at least tell me which officers were involved? Ebony asked. Barlow ran a hand through his hair. Officers Ronald Kent and Samuel Briggs. They reported that your sister fled a traffic stop, brandished a weapon, and they fired in self-defense. Ebony's jaw tightened. She knew Jade. She never carried a weapon, ever. Where's the dash cam footage? Body cam footage. Barlow hesitated. The dash cam malfunctioned. The body cameras supposedly weren't switched on. He paused uncomfortably. It's an internal affairs matter. Now red flags flew in Ebony's mind. She pressed her lips together in a thin line. The detective's eyes darted away. Ebony recognized the telltale signs of fear or complicity. Something more sinister lurked behind this tragedy. Before she left, Ebony asked, "Where's Jade's car?" "It's in impound." "But it's evidence." Barlow said almost apologetically. Ebony nodded, not wanting to tip her hand. Yet, she left the precinct feeling a swirling concoction of grief, rage, and suspicion. That afternoon, Ebony visited her mother's old row house. Once full of laughter and the aroma of home-cooked meals, it now felt hollow. The door creaked on its hinges as Ebony stepped inside. She found her mother, Barbara Baxter, sitting at the kitchen table. Shoulders slumped, eyes red from crying. Ebony knelt by her chair, silently offering her presents. Her mother's trembling hand found Ebony's. "They killed my baby, Barbara," sobbed voice raw with agony. Ebony hugged her gently, holding back her own tears. She needed to be strong for her mother. After a moment, Barbara whispered, "All Jade wanted was to come home safe. She was worried. Said some police were messing with her." She was terrified. Barbara revealed Jade had been quietly recording her encounters with certain officers on her phone. She believed Jade feared for her life. The phone was missing now, taken into evidence, Ebony assumed, but no one would confirm or deny it. Ebony promised her mother she would find the truth. She wasn't sure how, but she had to do it. She had sworn to protect her family, long before she'd ever sworn an oath to protect her country. Ebony's first lead came from an unlikely ally, an old friend from high school, Danielle Jenkins, who now worked as a local journalist for the Baltimore Sun. Danielle reached out as soon as she heard about Jade's death. They met at a small diner, a few blocks from Ebony's old stomping ground. Danielle arrived in a raincoat, carrying a laptop bag. She ordered coffee. Ebony just water. "Eb, I'm so sorry," Danielle said, reaching across the table to squeeze Ebony's hand. "I've been trying to get details, but everything is locked down. The station is refusing to release the footage, citing an internal review." Ebony leaned forward. "Something's not right." Danny Jade was afraid. She said some cops were threatening her. She's never owned a gun. Never. That story is pure lies. Danielle sipped her coffee, eyes scanning the diner to ensure no one was listening. There have been rumors swirling around the precinct. Certain officers who've been implicated in corrupt practices, drug running using excessive force on people of color, especially in East Baltimore. She opened her laptop, showing Ebony a list of names she'd dug up. 2 of them stood out immediately: Ronald Kent and Samuel Briggs. They were under internal affairs, investigation for multiple complaints of harassment and brutality, yet they were still on active duty. Ebony felt her blood boil. They talked strategy. Danielle would keep investigating from the journalistic angle, trying to pry official records free through Freedom of Information Act requests. Ebony would follow a different path off the books. She needed to confront these cops, gather any evidence that might expose them, and find Jade's missing phone, if it existed. "I have to warn you," Danielle said cautiously. "These guys are dangerous, Ebony. They might have powerful connections. Be careful." Ebony's eyes hardened. They don't know who they're dealing with. That night, Ebony staked out a local bar, rumored to be a watering hole for certain police officers. After their shifts, Danielle had dropped a hint that Ronald Kent often bragged about his war stories. Over a few beers, Ebony parked her rental car across the street, hidden under the shadow of a broken street lamp. She watched men in uniform saunter in, some in plain clothes. Around midnight, Kent emerged heavyset with a bald head and thick forearms. He wore a worn leather jacket, his police badge hidden, but implied by his swagger. Ebony followed at a distance when he stumbled to his car, a black SUV with tinted windows. She trailed him through deserted streets until he parked outside a ramshackle apartment building in a neglected part of town. She waited until he got out, then slipped from her car, moving with a predator's calm. Using the stealth she'd honed in the Marines, Ebony approached the building's side door. She picked the lock with practiced ease, just like infiltration training taught her. Inside, the hallway stank of stale cigarettes and rotting trash. Yellowed walls flickered under the dull overhead light. Ebony crept up a set of stairs, following the muffled sounds of Kent's footsteps, until she heard a door slam on the second floor. She couldn't exactly bust down his door, not without probable cause or backup. But Ebony had other ways to glean information. She carefully placed her ear against the thin walls, hearing Kent grumble on the phone. He was complaining about that Baxter chick, cursing her name in a slurred voice. Ebony's heart pounded at the mention of her sister. Told Jade to keep her mouth shut. Got herself shot, Kent muttered. Ebony clenched her fists. Rage surged like molten lava, but she forced herself to remain silent, listening, hoping he'd say more. "We got to get rid of that phone," he continued. "No loose ends." Ebony exhaled quietly. So the phone did exist. Jade had evidently recorded something incriminating, and now they were trying to dispose of it. She wanted to burst into that apartment and force Kent to reveal all, but that would be reckless. A more surgical approach was necessary. Gathering as much intel as she could, Ebony slunk away, determined to find the phone and see precisely what Jade had recorded. The next day, Ebony pored over city maps in her motel room. She listed every impound lot connected to the Baltimore PD, cross-checking official addresses with rumors she needed to see Jade's car. Maybe the phone was stashed somewhere. Ebony knew from experience that sometimes the simplest place to hide something was in plain sight. She'd once smuggled crucial intel past enemy lines by tucking it into the seat cushion of a battered Jeep. By mid-afternoon, Ebony pinpointed a large fenced-in lot on the edge of the city. It was run by the Department for Special Evidence. She suspected Jade's car might be there. Breaking in wouldn't be easy, but Ebony was trained for infiltration. She prepared a stealth kit, dark clothing gloves, bolt cutters. She also had a 9mm pistol she'd purchased legally years ago, though she loathed the thought of using it unless absolutely necessary. Shortly after midnight, Ebony parked several blocks away, then traversed dark alleys until she reached the impound lot. Floodlights illuminated the perimeter, while security cameras perched ominously at corners. Ebony slid behind a dumpster, scanning the area. She identified a blind spot near a service gate, timing her movements between the rotating security camera sweeps. Ebony sprinted across the open ground, flattening herself against the fence. With practiced efficiency, she snipped through the chain links, slipped inside, and crouched behind rows of confiscated vehicles. The stench of rusted metal and stale gasoline hung heavy in the air. She searched systematically, scanning license plates until she spotted Jade's beat-up red sedan. Heart pounding, Ebony hurried over and slipped inside. The interior still bore signs of chaos: a shattered driver's window, dried blood on the seat bullet holes in the door. Ebony swallowed her grief and focused on rummaging glove compartment under seat's trunk. Nothing. She felt around for any hidden compartments. Then her fingers brushed a small gap beneath the dashboard. She tugged, revealing a piece of plastic, barely hanging on. Beneath it was a phone case, taped to the metal frame. Ebony carefully pried it out. Her heart skipped a beat when she recognized Jade's phone, cracked screen but intact. Footsteps echoed in the distance. Ebony froze. A flashlight beam danced across the lot, security guard or a late-night officer. She didn't wait to find out. Clutching the phone, Ebony slipped out the passenger side, sliding under a neighboring SUV. The guard's footsteps drew closer. The flashlight swept across the red sedan but didn't linger. After a tense minute, the footsteps and light receded. Ebony exhaled quietly and made her escape, retracing her route through the fence and vanishing into the darkness. Back in her motel room, Ebony plugged Jade's phone into a charger. The screen flickered to life, battered but functional. She navigated to the phone's video gallery. There were several files, but one was especially large, dated just 2 nights before Jade's death. Ebony's pulse hammered. She opened it. The footage began with Jade sitting in her car, filming a pair of officers from a slight distance. Their badges were visible. Kent and Briggs. The audio was muffled, but Ebony heard Jade's fearful whisper. "They keep following me. I need to document this." Then came the confrontation. The cops approached Jade, telling her to roll down her window. They threatened her with arrest if she kept sticking her nose in police business. Jade insisted she was doing nothing illegal, just sitting in her car. Kent's voice turned menacing. "We know who you are. Your Marine sister can't save you from everything." Briggs chimed in. "We told you to stop filming us, or else you keep messing around. We'll have no choice." Suddenly Kent reached for his gun, but Jade's shaky camera whipped downward, capturing only the lower half of their bodies. The audio was crystal clear. Though, Kent barked, "You filming me? That's a big mistake." Then a scuffle. Jade screaming, "Get off me!" The phone's camera tumbled, landing on the passenger seat, but Ebony could still see enough. Kent yanked Jade out of the car. Briggs rummaged through her glove box. One of them shoved a small black object, what looked like a gun, onto the seat. Jade's voice cracked as she pleaded, "That's not mine." Then Kent said, "It is now." The screen went black. Ebony's breath came in shudders, so they'd planted a weapon on Jade. This was cold, premeditated corruption. This was murder. She sank onto the bed, tears rolling down her cheeks. For all the horrors she'd witnessed in war, nothing prepared her for this gut-wrenching betrayal by those who wore badges. But Ebony was also a Marine, and she swore an oath to protect not only her country, but her family. She had proof now. The question was how to use it. Early the next morning, Ebony contacted Danielle. They met in a parking garage downtown. Ebony handed over the phone, telling Danielle, "Make copies. Secure them in multiple places. We can't risk losing this evidence." Danielle stared at Ebony wide-eyed. "This is explosive, Eb. If we can get it authenticated, it'll blow the case wide open. Kent and Briggs could face murder charges, but they'll come after us hard." Ebony nodded grimly. "I'm done being afraid. This is war." Danielle left to arrange safe storage of the video, while Ebony turned her attention to building a strategy. She'd served on intelligence missions in hostile territories, working alongside special operations teams. Now she had a new battlefield, Baltimore's underbelly of corruption. The next step was to draw out Kent and Briggs, because Ebony suspected they had allies in the department. They were too brazen to act alone. She needed the entire ring to go down. Her chance arrived when Ebony received an unexpected text from an unknown number. It read, "Stop digging or you'll end up like your sister." Ebony stared at the message, fury pulsing behind her eyes. She typed back, "Meet me. Let's settle this." A few minutes later, the phone buzzed again. East Harbor Warehouse. Midnight alone. Ebony smiled grimly. A trap. Exactly what she needed. That night, Ebony headed to the East Harbor Warehouse district, an industrial zone by the water, lined with abandoned buildings. She parked discreetly, surveying the scene with night vision binoculars. 2 black SUVs, tinted windows. She spotted 4 men, maybe more inside. She recognized Kent's hulking frame, Briggs's lean silhouette. They were armed. Ebony circled around the back of the warehouse, stealthily climbing a rusted fire escape to the roof. The city's harbor lights glinted off the water, a backdrop to the final act of this tragedy. Ebony crouched near a shattered skylight, peering down. She saw a makeshift table crates scattered around the men, waiting anxiously. Kent paced, gun in hand. Briggs leaned against a pillar, chewing gum. Another 2 men, unknown to Ebony, but presumably part of the crooked ring. Ebony's phone buzzed again. A text from the same unknown number. "Where are you?" Ebony typed back, "On my way." She rummaged in her backpack, pulling out a small camera she'd borrowed from Danielle. She hit record, capturing the criminals below. She also readied her 9mm, attaching a suppressor. She hoped not to use it, but she wasn't naive. These men had murdered Jade. They wouldn't hesitate to kill Ebony too. Suddenly another figure entered the warehouse. Ebony recognized Mark Barlow, the junior detective who had spoken to her at the station. He looked nervously at Kent. "This is going too far," Barlow said, voice echoing in the empty space. "We're police officers, not hitmen." Kent barked a laugh. "We're whatever we need to be. Baxter's got that phone. We need it. If she hands it over, we let her live. If not..." He trailed off, brandishing his gun. "I won't be part of this," Barlow said, stepping back. But Briggs blocked him. Kent slammed a fist on the table. "Yes, you will, unless you want your career to go down in flames." "We know about those falsified reports you signed, Barlow." Paled Ebony's eyes narrowed. So Barlow was compromised but not entirely rotten, just in too deep blackmailed. Ebony had seen enough. She sent a group text to Danielle and to a trusted contact at a local TV station, Warehouse East Harbor. "Send the cavalry, I have video." Then she made her move. Ebony slid down a rope she'd secured landing, cat-like, on a pile of crates at the edge of the warehouse interior. Her sudden appearance startled the group. Guns whipped toward her. Ebony raised her hands. "I'm here," she said quietly. Kent's lips curled in a sneer. "Where's the phone? You'll never see it." Ebony replied, stepping forward. She scanned the environment. Her training told her to isolate the biggest threat first. Kent, with his bullish aggression. She waited until his gun wavered slightly, then exploded into motion. A lightning-fast roundhouse kick knocked the pistol from Kent's hand. Briggs fired a shot that ricocheted off a metal crate. Ebony ducked behind a support beam, returning fire to keep them pinned down. She didn't want to kill them if she could avoid it. Prison was a better punishment. But they were playing for keeps. One bullet grazed Ebony's shoulder, burning like fire. She gritted her teeth, ignoring the pain, quickly applying pressure to stanch the bleeding. Barlow dove behind some crates, trembling. The other two men advanced, guns, spitting lead. Ebony sprinted along a row of pillars, returning carefully aimed shots. She was a marksman in the Marines and knew how to conserve ammo. One of the men howled and dropped his weapon, clutching his shoulder. Ebony pressed forward, adrenaline pumping. Kent roared, lunging for Ebony. They grappled hand to hand, Ebony's martial arts training against his brute strength. He elbowed her jaw, sending shockwaves through her skull. Ebony slammed her knee into his gut, hooking his arm into a joint lock. A sickening pop echoed as Kent's elbow dislocated and he bellowed in agony. She disarmed him, tossing the gun aside. Briggs attempted to flank Ebony, but she rolled behind a crate. Another bullet whistled past her ear. She reached up, locked onto his wrist, and twisted, forcing him to drop the gun. A swift blow to his temple with the butt of her pistol sent him sprawling. Ebony panted, chest heaving as she scanned the area. One of the unknown men was incapacitated, moaning on the ground, and the other had fled. Barlow crouched behind a crate, shaking. Outside, sirens wailed. Danielle had alerted the media, and Ebony's text must have reached someone in the department who wasn't corrupt. Flashing red and blue lights illuminated the broken windows. Ebony seized the moment, stepping over to Barlow. She stared him down, gun at her side. He raised his hands in surrender. "I never wanted this," he whispered, tears in his eyes. "They forced me. I was just Ebony. Cut him off. You have a chance to make it right." She gestured to the battered men on the ground. "Testify. Tell the truth." Moments later, a swarm of squad cars and unmarked vehicles converged on the warehouse. Officers poured inside, guns drawn. Ebony tossed her weapon aside, raising her hands calmly. Danielle rushed in, behind them, phone in hand, filming the entire scene. A couple of officers recognized Ebony from the station. The chaos soon subsided as internal affairs investigators took control, cuffing Kent Briggs, and the wounded officer, paramedics, attended to Ebony's shoulder wound. She refused to leave until she locked eyes with Danielle, who nodded, confirming she had the evidence safe. In the following days, Ebony watched the city erupt in protests and demands for accountability after the Baltimore Sun, and a local TV station released the damning footage from Jade's phone. The public learned how Jade had been harassed, how officers had planted a weapon, and how she'd been shot under false pretenses. National attention followed, and the Baltimore Police Department faced an avalanche of condemnation. Kent and Briggs were arrested and charged with second-degree murder conspiracy, and a litany of other felonies. Investigations widened, revealing a web of corruption extending beyond a few rogue cops. Detective Mark Barlow emerged as a key witness, testifying that he'd been coerced into covering up misconduct. He told prosecutors, everything secret, hush money, fabricated evidence, intimidation campaigns. As Ebony watched the court proceedings, she felt a complex swirl of emotions, fury at the monstrous betrayal that took her sister's life, relief that justice was finally in motion, and a profound sadness that no outcome could ever bring Jade back. Still, Ebony honored her sister's memory by refusing to let the system bury another black woman's death under lies. The day of the verdict, Ebony stood on the courthouse steps, her shoulder-bandaged, tears welling in her eyes, As the judge pronounced Kent and Briggs guilty, the crowd around her erupted in a mix of cheers, sobs, and chants of justice for Jade. Ebony closed her eyes, feeling Jade's presence, remembering her sister's bright smile. She whispered, "We did it, Jade. We got them." The aftermath wasn't easy. Ebony faced scrutiny for her own actions. Some labeled her vigilante. Others hailed her a hero. Internal Affairs and the local district attorney decided not to pursue charges against her, citing the unique circumstances and overwhelming corruption that spurred her actions. And Ebony, battered and exhausted, resolved to focus on healing. She spent time with her mother, Barbara, who found some solace in seeing the killers brought to justice. Danielle's exposé on the case garnered national accolades, shining a light on systemic issues that needed urgent reforms. Yet Ebony struggled with grief. Late at night, she'd stare at Jade's photos and wonder if the cost of justice was too high. Her twin was gone forever. But Ebony also recalled Jade's unwavering conviction that the world could be better, that people could be redeemed. She started volunteering with community programs that aimed to rebuild trust between law enforcement and citizens, sharing her story to caution officers against letting power corrode their oath. She spoke to young recruits at the police academy, telling them about Jade, about corruption, about how easily lines could be crossed months past, and Ebony decided to return to Camp Pendleton for a final assignment before her discharge. The Marine Corps had been her crucible, forging her into someone capable of facing extraordinary challenges. Now, as she filed her exit paperwork, Ebony felt both pride in her service and an ache in her heart. She had fought wars overseas, and then she'd fought a war on her own streets. Each battle scar told a story of sacrifice, resilience, and love. On her last day in Baltimore, she visited Jade's grave. Kneeling, she placed a bouquet of white lilies against the headstone. "I wish I could have saved you," she murmured, voice trembling. "But I promise I'll live in a way that honors you. I'll protect people who can't protect themselves. And I'll never let anyone silence the truth again." She pressed her palm against the cool marble tears sliding down her cheeks. As she rose to leave, Ebony felt a gentle breeze, almost like Jade's comforting presence. She lifted her chin, squared her shoulders. She was still Ebony Baxter, a Marine, a survivor, a sister driven by love. And somewhere she hoped Jade was watching, proud that Ebony hadn't let her death become just another statistic. Thank you for joining me on this journey through heartbreak, courage, and ultimate justice. Ebony Baxter's story reminds us that unwavering determination and the pursuit of truth can dismantle even the most entrenched corruption. It's a testament to the unbreakable bond between sisters and how far we will go to protect the people we love, even when the cost is high. If this story moved you, please help keep its memory alive by supporting our channel. Like this video if you believe that justice, no matter how delayed, can still prevail. Share it with friends and family to spread the powerful message that no one, especially those in uniform, is above the law. And subscribe to our channel for more gripping stories that shine a light on the resilience of the human spirit. Together, we can demand accountability and champion what's right.